A very good afternoon, and thank you, Cyrus, for inviting me to your course. Can you switch the display, please? Thank you. So, Cyrus wanted me to show you a few situations with the rings and hooks, and I thought I'll take out a few new situations that we've been dealing with. Now, this lady was having a firecracker injury with a big iridodialysis, a subluxated cataract, and she had previously had a pterygium surgery as well done nasally. So the conjunctiva here was going to be scarred, and we didn't want to touch the conjunctiva too much, yet we had to fixate the iris as well in the same area. So we had to innovate, and we decided, of course, first to proceed with the cataract surgery, and then we have obviously to deal with the iridodialysis repair as well as the. So it's always good to use the iris hooks when you have such a big dialysis, because it secures the iris and you can do the cataract surgery more easily. And this is fast forward, just forwarded, because it's just a routine cataract. Yes, the lens is subluxated, but not so badly that cataract surgery is not possible. So it was a. Now we decide to put in a CTR to stabilize the bag. There's about 2-3 clock hours of dehiscence there, and then once that is done, you can remove the cortex more easily. And once the cortex is gone, of course you have to be very careful. Then you want the lens inside the bag. A single piece lens will do here. But yes, Ritika was right that if you suspect that you may have to fixate the lens potentially, then a 3-piece lens would be ideal. Now once this is done, we have to now ensure that we get the iridodialysis repaired as well. So now we are tightening the chamber so that we can make pockets. We are going to use Hoffman pockets. As I said, we didn't want to trouble the conjunctiva because it was already previously operated upon. So we are making this groove incision at the limbus and then dissecting using a crescent and creating a Hoffman's pocket. We will create 3 Hoffman's pockets. Now just look here what's going wrong. Now this is something which we shouldn't have probably done, because what's happened is, because we did not have good access to the iris to hold it, the 10-0 Prolene needle has actually stretched the iris so far and probably made a little bit extension of the iridodialysis plus created a hyphema from here. So this is a take-home message that whenever you are passing a suture through iris for iridodialysis repair or for a single pass pupilloplasty, although these 10-0 needles are very nice and they will sometimes go through the iris quite easily, at other times they will stretch the iris, and it can cause a tear which can be even bigger than what you started with. So which is what happened here. But so now it has added to our situation. We did manage to get through eventually, but as you can see that it was not the best thing to do. And now we have to go into damage control mode, and you can also see that almost now 180 degrees dialysis, because the iris from the other side has come out as well, but it got extended by almost half to 1 clock hour at the area where I was passing the suture. And then of course railroading it and bringing it out, and then we have to pass the second suture. So now we have to be careful that for the rest of the sutures we don't repeat the same mistake. So see what we are doing now. Just watch carefully. What we've done is, through the Hoffman's pocket, we've passed in the 26-gauge needle. So one way is to, of course, go with the forceps like micro manipulators and hold the iris where you want to pass the suture. The other way is very innovated here, that you pass in the 26-gauge needle opposite to the area where you want to pass the suture, and come in with the 26-gauge, the straight Prolene needle, and just catch the iris in between where you want to pass the suture. It will not cause any stretch or any damage, and it goes nicely. Just watch. And this way you can have the iris exactly where it is. You've no stretching or pulling on any side, and then we tie the suture inside the Hoffman's pocket, and then we bury the knot under the into the Hoffman's pocket, so it remains secured, it's not exposed. A second pocket now, and you can then pass the sutures similarly for the second pocket. You can watch here. We are passing the second needle, and we are using the same technique as we showed there, and then back and out through the Hoffman's pocket. Once the 2 ends of the Prolene needle are out through the pocket, you just pull them out from the pocket and tie and secure them. So you have the iris falling back into place now, and we need a third suture as well. There is an area of dialysis extending very close to where our main incision is, and it's counterintuitive because it's nasal, but we have to dissect a Hoffman's pocket. You have to have a very good crescent, and the direction and the forces of making the pocket have to be perfect, because you can either go too deep or come too shallow, and then there will be a problem. So again, the same technique used, bringing them opposing to each other and then passing the suture. It does not produce any kind of traction on the iris, and that way you have like 2 sutures out and then your last suture. So it comes out good, and then you have a nicely sitting iris, well repaired. Patient looks pretty good next day, and this is how she looked few days post-op, and the iridodialysis was nicely managed. And then also her visual outcome was pretty good. If you look at the left eye, we had almost a plano outcome, and she was 6'9" unaided in the left eye that we had operated. In fact, it came out so much better that the other eye, which was hyperopic, she was not happy and she wanted immediate surgery on the other eye. So a good outcome, and we can go on to another situation where we had this child with a lens coloboma, and we are going to show how to. We have started using Hoffman pockets for most of our fixations wherever we can. There are other situations where you have to make a flap, so you can't help it, but where you don't want, wherever you can avoid it, I think it's always good not to make disturb the conjunctiva for future glaucoma surgeries or other surgeries that you might want to do, and the limbal stem cells need to be preserved at any cost. So here we have used Viscoat, and we are going to create an eccentric rhexis, because finally when the rhexis comes into the center, it will center out, and we need to plan for the rhexis to become central when you put in the lens and when you've anchored the bag. Now here we are using these MST capsular hooks to stabilize the bag, because else the bag will become loose and come into the port. So you need to support it. You can also do it with a CTS, but here we just were happy to use this capsular hook, which has a expanded end which holds the bag much nicer than the iris hook. So I am not a big fan of using iris hooks for anchoring onto the capsule, because they latch onto the edge of the rhexis and they can cause your rhexis to break, whereas the capsular hooks latch onto the equator of the bag. Now getting the CTR in, at this point it's sometimes good to remove one of these hooks, because you want to pass in the suture for the CTS, and we are going to insert the CTS and then use the anchor it to the Hoffman's pocket that we have created there. So again we pass outside in 126 gauge needle, and we are going to now thread the 10-0 Prolene suture, which has already been passed through the CTS. So we will have one suture coming out like this. So what you can understand is that the 10-0 Prolene is now passing through the Hoffman's pocket and coming out on top of the conjunctiva. And then now we'll similarly do the second suture. Again the second needle goes out through that and comes out outside the conjunctiva. So now you have 2 sutures which are projecting beyond the conjunctiva, and then now you can allow the capsular hook to go, because now your CTS will hold the capsular bag in place, and then you pull out the loops from the Hoffman's pocket, both the loops, and then you tighten and tie one knot to see how much strength you would like there. So once you've tied one knot, you will know exactly how much strength you need, and see how far you need to center the bag, and you can titrate it and calibrate it. And once that is done, you can then go in with your lens implantation. I have still not finalized the knot, so it's just one single knot there. I will go into the bag. Always use a hydrophobic lens, and now I'm going to finalize my knot so that my lens centers perfectly. And yes, it does. And again, this patient did well. Had a bilateral similar cataract, and we did a surgery for both eyes. This is almost 3 years post-op now, and patient continues to do well. Of course, you have to keep them on watch, because there is that small potential that sometimes you need to watch out the other side, because the capsular dehiscence will happen. I think we still have time, so I'll go on to one more video here. This is a black-brown cataract which we are operating, and patient is a one-eyed patient, has delayed this surgery because the fellow eye was lost to some complication in cataract surgery, and this eye was due for a surgery for almost 3-4 years and can't see at all now. Plus he's on tamsulosin, so you can see that the iris is beginning to come in. And we had thought that using Viscoat we'll be able to retain and the patient was very uncooperative. You saw that movement there. The patient would suddenly move. Just watch again, there'll be a violent movement from the patient. See there? And this happened a few times during the surgery, and when you're using very high parameters and the patient is not cooperative, can't hear, has a brown cataract and is one-eyed, it can become very challenging. And now we ensure that, I think Ritika showed how nicely to do these chopping maneuvers. I like to use the woodpecker technique because that helps you chop these hard brown cataracts in a much better way. So here the pupil is coming down and we have to be quick. I am now using phenocaine injection and hoping that the pupil will come back a little bit bigger in size. But once you have the cracks in place and your posterior plate is cracked, then things are not that bad, and you can then try to aspirate try to emulsify those fragments. But that's not the end of the story. The best part is I thought that now I'm pretty safe because I'll be able to get this cataract out fairly easy. Managed to get all the fragments one by one. Main thing is not to touch the iris at any point because it's a floppy iris, and I would have ordinarily used a device to keep the pupil drawn, but once my cracks were there, I knew that even with a small pupil I'll manage. So now the tougher part begins, because the cortex is very tightly stuck to the bag and there is very significant zonular laxity, so the bag is ready to come out with the aspiration, and you can see that it's a very small pupil, and I'm trying to see if I can get the pupil size. You can see the patient is moving a lot as well, so one has to be extremely careful all the time. The posterior capsule would bulge forward and almost come and touch the cornea every time that I switched off the infusion, and then you'll notice it a few times that when we put viscoelastic it goes back almost 4 or 5 millimeters, and it's almost impossible to get this cortex off the capsular bag because it's very tightly stuck. So I'm just somehow trying to loosen it from holding on to those edges, but it's very scary because you can end up causing a full bag to come into your port, and I'm supporting it with my other instrument so that it doesn't bring the whole bag with it. As I aspirate the cortex, you can see the posterior capsule bulge forward, and I go back again and fill the bag with visco, and it goes back. And I'm scared that there may be a small PC rent there, but then I realize it's just a fold of the posterior capsule. So as I put in the CTR, that fold opens up, and now is the best time to put the CTR because almost much of the cortex has already been removed and some of it remains. It will become much easier to remove the cortex now. So the timing of when you should put a CTR is also very important. You must only put it when it becomes absolutely necessary. Should not be the first thing that you do in such cataracts. And we managed to get the you can see how the capsule is bulging forward along with the cortex as we aspirate it. Now finally we think we're almost home, and managed to get the lens into the bag. And luckily this patient got a good outcome, which was very challenging to begin with, and very uncooperative patient, one-eyed and with a black cataract. So I think if we've run out of time, I think we've run out of time. So Cyrus, I should stop, right? Thanks.